Welcome back. You are listening to the home of forbidden romances. Prepare yourself, because tonight's story will leave you breathless. I quit. The two words hung in the sterile, hyper-oxygenated air of the corner office like the blade of a guillotine waiting to drop. Outside the floor-to-ceiling glass walls, the neon arteries of Shanghai pulsed through the rain-slicked night, indifferent to the silent war being waged on the 45th floor. Pei Ling did not blink. He stood with the posture of a man facing a firing squad, spine rigid, hands clasped behind his back, his tailored charcoal suit hugging a frame that had grown too thin over 3 years of sleepless servitude. On the desk, a single sheet of cream-colored paper lay in the center of the mahogany expanse. Lu Tsong did not look at the paper. He did not even look up from the tablet in his hands. The CEO of Lu Corporation, a man the tabloids christened the Hades of Commerce for his cold brutality in acquisitions, simply scrolled. The silence stretched, tight and suffocating, until the sound of Pei Ling's own heartbeat seemed to echo against the glass. Denied, Lu Tsong said finally. His voice was a low baritone, smooth and dark like expensive whiskey poured over jagged ice. It wasn't a request, President Lu, Pei Ling replied, his voice steady despite the tremor in his fingers hidden behind his back. My contract expired at midnight. The debt my father owed your family is paid in full, plus interest. I have transferred the schedule, the encrypted keys, and the private contacts to your new executive assistant. Lu Tsong stopped scrolling. The air pressure in the room seemed to drop. Slowly, agonizingly, he placed the tablet face down. He rose from his leather throne, a predator unfolding its limbs. He was tall, dominating the space with broad shoulders and a terrifying, icy elegance. He walked around the desk, his Italian leather shoes making no sound on the plush carpet, until he stood mere inches from Pei Ling. He smelled of sandalwood, rain, and danger. You think you can just walk away, Secretary Pei? Lu Tsong whispered, leaning down so his breath ghosted over the shell of Pei Ling's ear. After you've seen the skeletons in my closet? After you've learned how to breathe for me? I am an employee, sir, not an organ, Pei Ling said, stepping back. He needed to leave. Now, before the magnetic pull of this man destroyed the last shred of his sanity. I have a flight to catch. I know, Lu Tsong said. A cruel, knowing smirk touched his lips. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a phone. Not his phone. Pei Ling's burner phone. The one he had bought with cash 2 hours ago to book a ticket to Zurich. Pei Ling's blood ran cold. How do you have that? I have everything that belongs to you. Pei Ling, Lu Tsong said, dropping the cheap device into a glass of water on his desk. It fizzled and died. Because you belong to me. And if you think I haven't been watching you by that phone, watching you pack your suitcase, watching you tremble when you think you're alone, then you have severely underestimated my attention to detail. Pei Ling stared at the drowning phone. It wasn't just professional surveillance. It was an obsession. He turned on his heel, abandoning dignity for survival. I'm leaving. The elevators are locked. Lu Tsong's voice halted him at the door. The stairwells are sealed. Tonight, the building is on lockdown. You wanted to talk about expiration dates? Let's talk about the cameras I found in your apartment. The ones I didn't put there. Pei Ling froze, his hand hovering over the brass handle. He turned back slowly. What? Sit down. Pei Ling, Lu Tsong commanded, loosening his silk tie as he walked toward the liquor cabinet. Pour yourself a drink. It's going to be a long night. The revelation that his sanctuary had been violated should have terrified Pei Ling, but underneath the fear was a simmering, volcanic anger. He sat on the velvet sofa in the lounge area of the office, watching Lu Tsong pour 2 glasses of amber liquid. You're lying, Pei Ling said, though he knew Lu Tsong didn't lie. He manipulated, he omitted, he destroyed, but he did not lie. Am I? Lu Tsong handed him the glass. His fingers brushed Pei Ling's, sending a jolt of electricity through them both that was nearly painful. 3 days ago, a maintenance crew entered your building. One of them was on the payroll of the Zhao family. They planted 3 listening devices and a pinhole camera in your bedroom, specifically facing your bed. Pei Ling felt bile rise in his throat. The Zhao family, Lu Tsong's bitterest rivals. Why? I'm just a secretary. You are the gatekeeper, Lu Tsong said, taking a seat on the coffee table directly in front of Pei Ling, invading his space, forcing his legs to part slightly to accommodate Lu's proximity. The power dynamic shifted instantly. Pei Ling was seated, trapped, while Lu Tsang loomed over him, not as a boss, but as a guardian beast. You hold the keys to the kingdom. If they break you, they break me. So you were watching me too? Counter-surveil. Pei Ling asked, skepticism dripping from his tone. I was watching you because I can't take my eyes off you, Lu Tsang corrected, his gaze dropping to Pei Ling's lips. The raw intensity of the admission sucked the air out of the room. And when I saw them invade your space, I dismantled them. But the Zhao family thinks you are ready to turn. They think your resignation is a signal that you are open to the highest bidder. I'm not, Pei Ling snapped. I just want to be free. Of them. Of you. There is no freedom from me, Pei Ling. Lu Tsang reached out, his large, calloused hand gripping Pei Ling's chin, forcing him to look up. We are tethered. You hate me because I hold your leash, but tell me, has anyone else ever made you feel safe? You don't make me feel safe, Pei Ling lied, his breath hitching. You make me feel hunted. Good, Lu Tsang murmured. Because tonight, you are the bait. The logic was twisted, a labyrinth of corporate warfare that Pei Ling had navigated for years, but never as the centerpiece. You locked us in here to protect me? No. Lu Tsang stood up, pulling Pei Ling with him. I locked us in here because the assassins the Zhao family sent are currently in the lobby, trying to bypass my security. If you leave this building, you will be dead within the hour. Pei Ling's eyes widened. He moved to the window, looking down. Far below, flashing lights reflected on the wet pavement. Not police. Private security. You used me. Pei Ling realized, the betrayal cutting deeper than the danger. You knew they would strike when I tried to leave. You let me resign to trigger them. I needed them to show their hand, Lu Tsang admitted, his face a mask of cold calculation. And I needed you here, where I can see you, where I can touch you. You're a monster, Pei Ling whispered. I am a king, Lu Tsang corrected. And a king keeps what is his. The hours that followed were a blur of tension and silence. The building's security systems held, the blast-proof glass isolating them from the world. But inside the office, the walls were closing in. Pei Ling paced the room, his mind racing. He had spent 3 years suppressing his feelings for this man. 3 years of ignoring the way Lu Tsang's shirt stretched over his chest, the way his eyes lingered a second too long during meetings. He had convinced himself it was hatred. He had to. Because loving Lu Tsang was like falling in love with a landslide, spectacular and fatal. But now, stripped of the professional veneer, the raw attraction was undeniable. Lu Tsang sat at his desk, watching Pei Ling pace. He had removed his jacket. His sleeves were rolled up, revealing forearms corded with muscle. He looked relaxed, but his eyes tracked Pei Ling's every movement like a wolf tracking a deer. Stop pacing, Lu Tsang said. You're making me dizzy. I'm sorry my impending assassination is inconveniencing you. Pei Ling shot back. Lu Tsang chuckled, a low, rumbling sound. Come here. No. Pei Ling. The voice wasn't a command this time. It was a plea, wrapped in velvet. Pei Ling stopped. He looked at the man who held his life in his hands. Slowly, he walked toward the desk. He didn't stop at the edge. He walked around it, invading Lu Tsang's sanctuary. Why are you really watching me, Lu Tsang? Pei Ling asked, his voice trembling. Don't give me the security excuse. You hacked my laptop 6 months ago. You track my GPS. You know what I buy at the grocery store. That's not protection. That's madness. Lu Tsang looked up, his dark eyes swirling with a storm of emotions he usually kept locked behind iron doors. Because I am defective, Pei Ling. The admission stunned Pei Ling. I don't know how to do this. Lu Tsang gestured vaguely between them. I don't know how to ask for what I want. I only know how to acquire. To conquer. To keep. He reached out, his hand hovering over Pei Ling's waist. I watched you because it was the only way I could be with you without ruining you. I thought if I kept my distance, if I just observed, I could be satisfied. And, Pei Ling whispered. And I'm starving, Lu Tsang groaned. He grabbed Pei Ling's waist and pulled him forward. Pei Ling stumbled, falling into Lu Tsang's lap. The contact was electric. Pei Ling should have pushed him away. He should have slapped him. But instead, his hands found purchase on Lu Tsang's shoulders. The heat radiating from the CEO was intoxicating. You're terrible, Pei Ling said, his voice breaking. I know. You're possessive, paranoid, and controlling. I am. And you're bleeding. Pei Ling noticed, his hand coming away from Lu Tsong's white shirt stained with red. Lu Tsong glanced down at his side indifferently. A parting gift from a Zhao associate in the garage this morning. It opened up. Why didn't you say anything? Pei Ling scrambled off his lap, panic replacing the lust. Where's the first aid kit? Bathroom. Under the sink. Pei Ling rushed to get it, his hands shaking. When he returned, Lu Tsong had unbuttoned his shirt, revealing a bandage soaked in blood on his sculpted side. The sight of the injury, the vulnerability of this invincible man, broke something inside Pei Ling. He knelt between Lu Tsong's legs, peeling away the sodden gauze. The wound was a jagged slice, not deep enough to be fatal, but angry and inflamed. This needs stitches, Pei Ling murmured, his professional mask sliding back into place to cover his terror. Do it then, Lu Tsong said, watching him. You're the only one I trust. Pei Ling looked up, meeting those dark, obsessive eyes. You trust me to stitch you up, but you don't trust me to leave your sight? Correct, Lu Tsong said simply. As Pei Ling worked, cleaning the wound and applying butterfly closures, his hands steady despite the chaos in his heart, he realized the truth. Lu Tsong wasn't keeping him prisoner out of malice. He was keeping him because Lu Tsong was the one who was trapped. Trapped in a world of enemies, where Pei Ling was the only anchor. There, Pei Ling said, taping the fresh bandage. He rested his hand on Lu Tsong's knee. It's done. Lu Tsong didn't let him move away. He captured Pei Ling's hand, pressing a kiss to the center of his palm. The gesture was shockingly intimate, a surrender from a man who never surrendered. Don't leave me, Pei Ling, Lu Tsong whispered against his skin. I will give you anything. I will destroy the Zhao family. I will burn this city to the ground if you want the ashes. Just don't leave. I can't stay as your secretary, Pei Ling said softly. I can't be your subordinate anymore. It hurts too much. Then don't be my subordinate, Lu Tsong said, pulling Pei Ling up until their faces were inches apart. Be my partner. Be my equal. Ruin me, if you have to. Just do it from my side. Pei Ling looked at the man who had terrified him, frustrated him, and protected him. He thought of the flight to Zurich. It seemed like a grayscale memory compared to the technicolor intensity of this moment. If I stay, Pei Ling said, his voice gaining strength, the cameras go. The trackers go. You ask me where I am. You don't spy on me. Lu Tsong hesitated, the control freak in him warring with the desperate lover. Finally, he nodded. Done. And, Pei Ling added, leaning in, his lips brushing Lu Tsong's. If you ever try to control me again, I won't quit. I'll take half your company. Lu Tsong smiled. A genuine, rare smile that transformed his face from a mask of stone to something breathtakingly human. I'd expect nothing less. He closed the gap, capturing Pei Ling's lips in a kiss that tasted of whiskey and surrender. It was rough, hungry, and possessed a desperation that told Pei Ling everything the surveillance cameras never could. This wasn't just desire. It was a drowning man clutching a lifeline. Outside, the rain lashed against the glass, and far below, the enemies gathered. But in the penthouse, amidst the shadows and the scent of blood and antiseptic, the dynamic had shifted. The prey had stepped into the jaws of the predator and found a home. Pei Ling deepened the kiss, his fingers tangling in Lu Tsong's hair. He wasn't leaving. He was exactly where he was meant to be, in the eye of the storm, holding the leash of the monster who loved him. And that is how the secretary brought the tyrant to his knees, not with a weapon, but with a resignation letter. If you enjoyed watching the icy President Lu melt for his obsession, destroy that like button. And tell me in the comments, would you stay with a man who stalked you to keep you safe, or would you have taken that flight to Zurich? I'll be reading your answers. Subscribe for the next chapter. Until then,